question is, are you ready for a story?
Yes.
Are you sure you're ready for a story?
Yes.
Okay, we'll tell you a story. I'm going to tell you, I was thinking we'll do the first half gentle, a nice gentle first half, and then the second half we might go a bit bold. But the first half, I like to kind of do quiet stories as well. So when I sit down, the first thing I need is my cup of tea, and I need my water. Okay. So this is a story from County Clare. Is there anybody from County Clare or knows County Clare? No. Okay. Before I even start the story, I'm going to explain things. County Clare is over there. Okay. You look across the water. There's a big hill. It's the Burren. It's part of County Clare. And County Clare is very beautiful. And when I do my stories, I like to kind of set the landscape, then introduce the characters, and then we'll see what happens. So County Clare, if you follow the coast, kind of going south, there's cliffs, there's big cliffs, and then there's beautiful kind of coves as well, kind of wee shorter cliffs and kind of nice bays. You've got pebbly beaches, you've got sandy beaches. We've just started to come away, and we're just waiting for you. Didn't we just say we were waiting for them? They were just waiting for you. And Ken there will look after your tickets for you. So, County Clare, you've got all these lovely, it's a very dynamic coastline, okay? There's cliffs, there's beaches, it's very beautiful. And one of the most beautiful things of all, of course, is you've got the Atlantic. So you're looking on the Atlantic. And the Atlantic is always changing, you know, and the Atlantic's a very beautiful ocean, whether you're on this side or in North America, the Atlantic is very beautiful, okay? And it changes all the time. Sometimes it's very flat, sometimes it's storming, sometimes it's black, sometimes it's green. It's very beautiful. So you've got the Atlantic there, with this really dynamic coastline. And then you go down to a place called Doonbeg, okay? And Doonbeg is further down, and this story takes place in Doonbeg 200 years ago. And 200 years ago in Doonbeg, there's a kind of wee cove there. It's kind of like two shallow cliffs and a kind of bit of land going down into the beach. And just kind of where the land, just at the top of this cove, there was a shack. It was called a shack, but actually it was a kind of sprawling building. I mean, built out of kind of bits of driftwood and stuff. But it was pretty solid. And it'd been there for about 100 years because the man that lived there was called Jack Doherty. And Jack Doherty's family had all lived in this. His father, his grandfather, and his grandfather's father had all lived in this shack, and had all added to it and made it bigger and stronger. You know, the storms couldn't blow away. It was pretty solid. And Jack had a job, okay? He'd be like we call a sole trader now, okay? He had his own wee job, and what he had his own little boat with a sail, and he'd go out with his big net into the Atlantic and he'd catch fish, alright? So I guess you call him fishing. He's a fisherman, okay? Get technical. He catches fish, brings them back, he sells the fish locally. Sometimes he's got a little horse and trap that goes up to Ennis, sometimes sells the fish there. But he's got another job as well, it's kind of a wee side job, a little side hustle. And that job is, well, it's the Atlantic, and if you ever see along the coast there, sometimes just out from the coastline there's rocks, okay? Some of the rocks stick up like fingers, others are like saws, like serrated saws that stick out of the water. And you have to be very careful if you're on a ship out there. And of course 200 years ago, there's no radar and there's poor maps and stuff. So if a storm blows up, sometimes a ship will kind of thrown against these rocks and it'll crack open. And when the ship cracks open, a lot of these ships were like cargo ships, and they were carrying things like brandy, or bales of cotton, or lovely fine fabrics, even furnishings and all this, and it all fallen to the water. So what Jack would do is Jack would get out with his little boat with his net, and he'd go and get this stuff, the salvage. He'd get the salvage for his boat thing. Now in those days, it was kind of illegal to kind of get the salvage. The salvage was supposed to belong to the king. If you stole the king's salvage, they'd hang you. But Jack, you know, he kind of sorted. He knew the magistrates, he knew the lords, and he would sell on this stuff to them. They were quite happy to get kind of cheap brandy or cheap fabrics. But there was another reason that Jack kind of I mean, really, they could have just jailed him, hung him, and took the stuff. But the reason they kind of tolerated him was he did something else. Sometimes when these ships cracked open, of course, there'd be crew, the sailors. Sometimes there'd be passengers, there'd be men, women, and even children. And they'd crack open. And just in the storm in those days, most people would drown. If your ship went down, you were going down too. But sometimes when Jack was out there, he'd be hauling in a big crate of whiskey or something, and he'd see a body moving in the water and realise that he'd survive. And he'd let the salvage go and he'd rescue somebody. And so he actually brought people by, he actually saved people's lives. And the other thing he done as well is a little cove, sometimes with the dead would be washed up, and he would make sure they were looked after the dead. You know, you'd be very solemn thing, get them to Ennis, they'd be buried properly. So he did this as well. So he was kind of respected for that. So he was kind of let to do his own thing. So that's Jack. And what else we need to know about Jack? Jack was very handsome, okay? He was rugged, he kind of looked like myself, okay? A really handsome man, but he smelled of fish, okay? He was a bit smelly, alright? In those days, everybody smelled, but his was a fish smell. And he got to Ennis. Now we're going to introduce another character, okay? The story hasn't started yet, just introduce the characters. He got up to Ennis, one day he was in Ennis, and he met a woman. There's always women in these stories, okay? So you know, is there any woman in the audience? There is. There's a woman in this story. Her name is Biddy, okay? And Biddy is the daughter of a quite respectable family. And she sees this handsome, kind of debonair, charming guy with a reputation of being a bit of a rogue, stealing stuff, but also a bit of a hero, also being a fisherman because he smells of fish. And she's kind of impressed with him. And they start courting. Going out together. After a year, they get married. And her mother isn't sure about this, but she gets married. She moves into the shack. And it's fine, she really likes it. She really kind of takes to this. She's lived in Ennis, now she's in the shack, and she loves it. Because it's quite a big building, this shack. And she loves the smell of the sea, the salt and the seaweed. She loves the sound of the wind pounding against the building when they're inside. She loves the sound of the birds. She sounds the sound of the seals when they're having their pups. She loves the whole place. And even she would go and dabble her feet, you know, being a proper lady, she would just get her ankles naked. She would dabble them in the water. I know she was very happy. But then something happened. One day there was a storm, the storm blew off. The next day she was going down, there was a big pile of seaweed there. She could see some driftwood in the seaweed. She went to get the driftwood, and it wasn't driftwood, it was a dead body. Okay. And it was her first encounter with a dead body from the sea, and it really fixed an idea in her, and she couldn't get rid of it. And her idea was the sea, the Atlantic, represented death. And for her, that was it. She still enjoyed the sound of the wind, and she loved the storms, but she would no longer go near the actual water, not even to dabble her toes. For her, the Atlantic, to walk towards the Atlantic was to walk towards death. And her husband Jack, he kind of joked with her about this, and then realised she was serious, and just let it go and went, okay, that's fine. But I still have to go in the water. She went, I know. So things carried on. He carried on in the water. She was still enjoying herself. And another nice thing about living with Jack was he had a bit of money. And also these fine fabrics that he was salvaging. She was making fine dresses. So she was going to Ennis and she was looking like a lady. So things were grand. And then Jack got an idea. And Jack's idea was almost fatal. It was a very dangerous idea. Now the story is going to begin, okay? So, what happened was, he was up in Ennis, and he was in a tavern that had been selling things, and there was an old sailor there, and he'd come ashore, hadn't been in Ireland for decades, he was now there, he was chatting to folk, he was going to head off again, and he saw Jack, and he said, oh, I know your face, are you one of the Dohertys? And Jack went, I am. And the old fellow said, how are the Merrows doing? And Merrows are creatures you get in Scotland and Ireland that, like mermaids, the kind of Scottish Irish version of mermaids. The Merrows, how's the Merrows doing? And Jack said, what are you talking about Merrows? And the old fellow said, oh, your family has a reputation for the Merrows, you're linked with the Merrows. And Jack suddenly remembered when he was wee, he'd heard this before, and he'd asked his father, and his father said, no, there's no such thing as Merrows. He just kind of let it go. Now there's this old man saying to him about the Merrows. And the old man said, your family, for generations, you have hung out with the Merrows, you're very close to them. Jack went, I don't think so. No, fella said, well, do you know what? One day you'll see a Merrow yourself. You sail up there. And that was the idea that was in Jack's head. Suddenly, he wanted to see a merman. And this began to grow in this idea. And one day he was out fishing with his wee boat and the sail up, and he saw a shadow in the water. And he followed the shadow and he followed the shadow, and he was sure it was a Merrow. But it was nothing. And the next thing he was going out for days on end, looking for the Merrows. And when he was getting upset, why are you not catching fish? He was saying, oh, the fish aren't running, I've been trying, I can't get them. But he was becoming obsessed with the Merrows. And then one day he was walking along the coast, there was a squall of rain, and he was kind of trying to hurry home. And he was looking out at the coast there, and suddenly, if you're ever in the west of Ireland, sometimes the rain is so thick it's like a wall, and then it parts, almost like curtains. It parted the rain. And for a moment he could see a rock out in the Atlantic. And on the rock he saw a figure. And he stopped. And he was sure he could see a tail. And he's sure he could see the figure like a man. And the weirdest thing, it seemed to have a hat on its head. And he went to cry out, oh! And the figure flopped into the water. The rain closed again and it was gone. But now Jack was sure, he was absolutely sure he'd seen a Merrow, and the Merrows were real, and he was going to do everything possible to get a Merrow, find a Merrow. So a week later he was walking along the coast again, and another storm blew up, a full-on storm. So this time he kind of made his way down to the shore. He knew there was some caves. He hid in the caves to keep away from the storm. And he was hiding in the caves, and he's looking out at the storm, and storms over this part of the world are amazing. He's watching it. There's all this kind of rain, it's moving, there's a lightning, there's all these different colours and flashes and booms, and it's a really mesmerising thing to watch the storm. And as he's watching it, he stops, because he hears a voice behind him. Kind of sound and a voice, and the sound is going. And he turns around very slowly, the voice turning very slowly, he turns around very slowly, and he kind of stops. For there, sat on a rock in the back of the cave, is a creature. And the creature's got a big fat tail. It's got kind of two stumpy legs sticking out the side like a newt. It's got a body like a man, a torso of a man, but it's green and scaly. It doesn't have arms, it has long, thin flippers with fingers at the end. It's got a head, but the head is like a pig's head. It's like a pig's head, only it's green. And it's got red eyes and huge fangs. And it's got a pile of fish, live fish, twitching beside it, and it takes one up, and it kind of bites into it, eats it all up. And Jack's looking at this, and he's thinking, it's a Merrow. It's a Merrow. And he's looking at it, and he goes, Merrow. And the creature looks at him, with the fangs on him, and the teeth. And it looks at him, and it leans forward. And he goes, is that yourself, Jack? I went, you know who I am? And the mayor went, of course I know you are. You're one of the Dohertys, aren't you? Teach me more fish. Pull up a rock and have a bit of fish. No, says Jack, I'm fine. How do you know me? And the mayor says, oh, your family, my family. We've been very close for a long time. But we haven't been seen each other for a long time. Here am I, taking shelter. You're taking shelter. And we've met together like old friends. This is wonderful. We should become reacquainted. And Jack said, of course, I'd love to be reacquainted with the Merrows. The Merrow said, well, why don't you come down and visit me? Come to my house next Friday. And Jack went, well, I can't come next Friday because I'm going to Ennis with my wife. And the Merrow looked at him and said, your wife? Aren't you just going to tell your wife you're coming with me? No, says the Merrow. You tell your wife what to do. Your grandfather, I used to hang out with your grandfather, he was a fine man. He wouldn't let his wife tell him to do anything. He would come with me whenever he wanted. you tell your wife you're coming with me next Friday. Be like your grandfather. And so Jack said, of course, I'll be like my grandfather. I'll tell my wife I'm going with the men. And so the week went by. And it was juggling of glasses going on. It was part of the day, it was all right. And so, and the wife picked up the glass and she said to her husband, we're going up to Ennis on Friday. And he said, Gran, we're going up to Ennis on Friday. When Friday came along, he looked at his wife and he said, wife, you know what? I don't feel very well. I can't go to Ennis. And she said, well, you know what? I'll stay home and I'll look after you. He said, wife, no. You go to Ennis for me. You go up there, see your family, maybe have a pint of beer for me, and I'll look after myself here. She said, okay. So Biddy left. And as soon as she left, Jack hurried along the coast into the cave, and there was the Merrow. The Merrow said, you coming then? I am. He told your wife, oh, I told her, get to Ennis, I'm going with the Merrow. Good. So the Merrow still gets his red hat on. He brings out another red hat, and he gives it to Jack. This is the hat that your grandfather used. Jack's looking at the hat. He said, why do you need these hats? Merrow went, well, the hats are magic. They're very magical. Red hats, well, for the Merrows, we need them because if I didn't wear my hat and I was on land, I would turn into a cow. Oh, said Jack, that's strange. And of course, you're a human. You need the hat so you can swim through the Atlantic. Jack went, we're going into the Atlantic? Yeah. Going deep, deep down into the water. Jack went, okay, let's do it. So the Merrow flopped off his rock and he flopped down to the coast there. He dived in and swam off. And Jack got to the edge of the coast there in the water and he was looking at it and he took the red hat and he went, okay, let's do it. And he put the red hat on his head and the next thing, whoop! It was like he was getting pulled into the water, he was flying over it, then into the water he went and down and down and down he went. Deeper and deeper and deeper, flying, whoa! Hashtag awesome. Oh my God, it was amazing. Whoa, there's fish going by him and there's whales going by him and an octopus and he's flying through all, of course it's the Atlantic, so it's full of all those kind of wee white particles like dead bits of flesh and dead plants, all that kind of materials like snow going by him. He's going deeper and deeper and deeper down. Whoa! And before long, he sees a huge big bubble and he's going towards the big bubble and then he goes pop through the bubble and he falls down on his arse. Ow! And he stands up and he looks. And he's inside this big bubble and there's air and he can breathe. And there's the Merrow. And the Merrow says, you got here then? I did. This is amazing. Of course, says the Merrow. Come with me, there's my house. And his house is a lovely cottage. And the roof's made of shells. So Jack's kind of making his way to the cottage when he hears a noise behind him. Like click, click, click. And he turns. And behind him is a creature. And it's an enormous creature. It's as long as this room. And it's a lobster. Well, it's a lobster and it's got huge big claws. Massive claws. And Jack's looking at it. And he's a bit scared. But the Merrow says, it's okay, this is just my guard lobster, he's fine. Aren't you, Fido? Big lobster goes snap, snap, snap. He says, it's okay. He won't harm you, as long as you don't cause me any bother. But if you cause me bother, snap in half. What's this, Jack? These pincers? Oh yes, said the Merrow. I once saw him snap an elephant in half with the pincers. So don't be messing with me. I wouldn't, said Jack. So the Merrow take him to the cottage. And they go into the cottage, and there's been food laid out by the Merrow's wife, but she's away now. She's laid out lovely food. And they're eating the food. And the Merrow gets some shells, and he fills them with brandy. And they begin drinking the brandy, and they're eating the food, and they're getting nice and full. And they're chatting away. And the Merrow's saying, this is fantastic. I've got one of the doctors in my house. Come away in. There's some more of them now. Come away in. And so they're sitting there and they're eating and all this and they're chatting. And the Merrow's saying to him, I've seen the amazing stuff you do. You go out to the boats there, you salvage stuff, you save people. What kind of stuff do you get? And so Jack said, well, I've got timbers for the house, I've got furnishings, I've got lovely fabrics. And he looks at the Merrow and he says to the Merrow, do you get stuff as well? And the Merrow says, oh, I've not much need for anything apart from brandy. Everybody needs brandy. But I do have tokens. I get little trophies. Do you want to see the trophies I've got? Jack said, sure. And the Merrow says, come with me into that door. And they open that door in the back of the house. So he goes into the door, and he opens the door, and the Merrow steps in. And Jack decides he's going to step in as well. So he steps into this dark room, and the Merrow shuts the door and lights a lamp. And with the glow of the lamp, it's kind of like gloomy, you can see a big chair. And the Merrow says, that's the chair your grandfather sat in. Why don't you sit down? So Jack sits in this chair, and he's feeling, well, you know what? He's feeling pished. Okay, he's drunk. He's drunk, he's happy, he's got his grandfather's red hat, he's in his grandfather's chair, and he's sitting with a Merrow. And he's feeling wonderful. And the Merrow looks at him and says, so what do you think of my trophies? And Jack looks around, and he realises he's beside a wall, but it's not a wall. It's like stacks and stacks of lobster cages. And he's looking at these lobster cages, and they're all woven through with silver and with gold. And they're studded with emeralds and diamonds and sapphires. And he's looking at them, and he turns to the Merrow and he said, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I have never seen such artistry. These are beautiful trophies. And the Merrow paused, and the Merrow said, that's not the trophies. The trophies are inside those lobster pots. And Jack went, inside them? Well, in a few of them. Most of them are empty, but some trophies are in some of them. I'm still collecting, you see. So look in that one there. So Jack went and looked in one of these beautiful, beautiful lobster pots. They stared and they stared. And then he saw like a ball of light. And the light was moving. And it was pulsing. And as he looked at it, it got brighter. And then he heard a sound. And it was almost like weeping. And he was looking at this strange, glowing ball of light. And as he was looking, an awful sense went through his belly. It went through his heart as well. An awful sense of nausea. An awful sense that something was terribly wrong here. And he felt frightened. And he felt, really upset. And he turned around to the Merrow and he said, what is that? The Merrow said, surely you know what it is. And Jack said, I don't. Oh, you must know. You know all about the water, don't you? I do. And you know about the ships foundering? I do. Well, you know that it's not just salvage that comes out of the ships, but it's sailors, and men, and women, and children. I do, said Jack. Well then, said the Merrow, that's what it is. You see, some of those men and women and children, they come into the Atlantic, and the Atlantic swallows them up. And the Atlantic puts its fingers down their throats and drowns them. It drowns them till they're dead. Oh no, that's a marvellous thing to see, Jack. To see them hanging in the water there like strange flowers, and life fading out of them. And as the last bit of life goes out of their bodies, their mortal bodies, sure, doesn't those balls of light come? Their souls. And their souls rise up and go to heaven, Jack. It's a marvellous thing to see a human soul going to heaven. Jack went, okay, but how did they get in there? What were they then? Well, that's the thing, Jack, because, well, I have my little lobster pots, and I'm out there. I have a little candle in my lobster pots. And I know the souls will be frightened. They've been in a human body, and suddenly they're in the cold Atlantic, and they're frightened, and they're confused. And I have a little lobster pot with a candle, and sometimes a soul will drift into the lobster pot instead. And snap! I haven't caught. I've caught the soul, and I keep the soul, and the soul is mine forever. And Jack's standing there, and it's at this point that Jack realises that maybe the Merrow is not the best company to be in. Okay? He's realising, okay. And he's also realising not to mess with the Merrow, or he could end up being cut in half with the lobster. He could become one of those trapped souls. So he just looks at the Merrow and goes, oh, that's wonderful. That's the best I've ever heard. That's fantastic. I need to go home now. And the Merrow looks and says, why do you have to go home? Well, I'm just so overwhelmed with this wonderful thing you've shown me. I need to go home and just have a nice think and let it settle with me. And the man looked and went, "Fine, so go home and then come back to me some other day." Okay. And so he takes his red hat, Jack takes the red hat, and he runs out, goes up to the bubble, jumps to the bubble, and whoop, through the bubble, he goes all the way through the water, all the way back up to shore, and he lands by the house, by his shack. He staggers on the house, and he sits down, and he's pale, and he's shaking. And of course, Biddy comes home from Ennis, and Biddy looks at him, she goes, "Oh my goodness, Jack, you are ill, you look terrible." "Thank you, wife." "Oh no, you look really, really, really bad." "Thanks." "You look really worse than you've ever looked in your entire life. There must be something really, really wrong with you." "There is." "What's wrong with you, Jack?" "Oh, I can't say. It looks as if you're troubled. It looks as if you're troubled in your soul." "Oh, my soul? Yeah, I'm troubled in my soul, wife. I am so troubled." "Tell me, husband, tell her what's wrong. Spit it out or I'll eat you up and kill you." So he spat it all out. "Oh, wife, there's a merrow and he took me to his house and there's cages there and they're all full of souls and he wants me to be his friend and oh my goodness, I don't know what to do." And the wife went, "You're full of a man. It's obvious what you have to do. You have to go and rescue the souls." And Jack went, "I do?" "Yes, husband, you do." And Jack looked at him and went, "Okay." And he kind of summoned up his inner listening husband thing and he went, "How do we do it?" She went, "Well, you make friends at the Merrow. You talk to them, make them your friend, invite them back to this house. I'll make a fine, fine meal. All you have to do is get him drunk, and when he's drunk, you go back into the water, go down to the cages and free the souls. It's that simple." And Jack went, "Okay, wife, I'll do it." So that's what he did. He spent a couple of weeks visiting the Merrow and sitting in that terrible room with the souls and the cages there. And the Merrow was chatting to him and getting very excited. "Oh, Jack," he said, "the things that we're going to do, we're going to make lots of money. You'll help me sink ships, you get the gold, I get the souls, it's going to be great." And Jack's going, "Yes, brilliant idea, best idea ever, hashtag awesome, thank you, brilliant." And then Jack says one day, "But why don't you come back to my house?" And the Merrow went, "Jack, I never thought you would ask. I used to love visiting the shack with your grandfather. Thank you. When can I come?" And Jack says, "Well, come on Friday. Next Friday, come at 7 o'clock. And that's what happened. And Biddy got everything ready. She cleaned the house. She got a lovely meal ready. She got in lots and lots of bottles of brandy. And then she said, "I'm going to leave you now. I'll be back at midnight. Make sure you get them drunk and go and rescue the souls." Jack went, "Okay." So Biddy went off. And Jack was in the house with the food and his list of husband chores he had to do, like, get the Merrow drunk and go rescue souls. He's checking it out, he's going to do it all. There's a chap at the door, special effects. He opens the door, and in comes the Merrow, with his fat tail, and his green skin, and his long flipper arms, and his face, and the fangs, and the red eyes, and he flops his way out, and he sits in a chair, and he begins to eat the food. And he begins to drink the brandy from the bottle. He's drinking the brandy, he's very happy. And he looks at Jack. He says, "Jack, are you not drinking the brandy too?" And Jack goes, "Well, I'm the host, I have to make sure everything's fine." "Oh, host," he said, "drink some brandy." And he looks at Jack. And Jack suddenly feels himself getting a bit nervous. And he's thinking, maybe brandy's a good idea. So he has a wee brandy, just one wee brandy. And it calms him down. And he realises that's a good idea. So he has another brandy just to kind of help with the calming down thing. But of course, Jack's a clever man. He knows you can't just keep drinking. So he has a third brandy just to stop the other two brandies fighting with each other, as it were. Okay? So he has now 3 brandies, and now he's feeling very relaxed. So you know what? He has a 4th brandy. And then another brandy, and then he's talking to the Merrow, and the Merrow's talking to him, and they're eating their food, and their bellies are expanding, and the brandy's going in, their brains are dissolving with the brandy, and they're all laughing and everything. And eventually they did that thing you do, and your belly's full, and your brain's melted, they just kind of flopped onto the table, and they both fell fast asleep. And at midnight, Biddy came home. And she came into her house and she opened the door and she saw the horrific thing on the table. Oh my goodness, with the green skin and the red eyes twisted and unconscious, flapping there. It's like, oh my goodness. And then she saw the other horrible thing, which was her husband. And he was lying there drunk. And she went over and she shook him. She said, God, come on, Jack, wake up. You've got to go to the Atlantic. You've got to go and rescue the souls. But Jack was completely gone. And poor Biddy knew what she had to do. She took the hat off the Merrow. And she left the house and she walked down the shore. And she walked to the Atlantic. And all the time she knew she was walking towards death. And she got closer and closer to the Atlantic. And finally she stepped in. And the water was cold. And the cold water was on her ankles, and she went up to her knees, and the cold water was at her hip and at her belly. It was like cold fingers of the dead waiting their way up her body. Further and further out she went, and then she got the hat and she put it on her head, and the minute she put the hat on her head, whoop! Off she flew! She was flying through the air, and she was flying in the water, and she went down and down and down through the dark, past the seaweed, past the coral, and past all the fish and the octopuses and the whales, down and down and down. There was a huge bubble. She went through the bubble and ow! And ow! And stood up. And she was quiet. Because she knew there was a big giant killer lobster somewhere and she was looking about. No lobster. So she quietly took herself to the cottage. And she looked in. There was no merrows, no lobster. She stepped through the front door. She went into the back room. And into the back room there was all the cages. So she began to open the cages up one at a time. And as she opened each cage, a glowing light would come out. And the souls would come out and start to float around her. And slowly she freed all the souls. But even as she freed them, she was getting angrier and angrier. Because she knew the cages were still there, that more souls would be caught. So she looked around, she got a big bit of wood, and she began to bang, 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 smash up all the cages. And as she smashed the cages, a rage came on her, and she was smashing them. There was cages flying everywhere, bits of wire and gold and emerald and diamonds flying everywhere. She was smashing into them, and she was roaring at them now with a rage on her, which might have been partly because she was annoyed with her husband. And she was smashing away, smashing away. And she was so loud she did not hear the sound of the click, click. And in behind her came the lobster. It came in the front room, and it came into the back room. It came all the way behind her with these huge big pincers. And it opened the big pincers up. And then it leapt at poor Biddy. And just as about to land on Biddy, all those beautiful spheres of light that came down, they surrounded Biddy, they lifted her up and took her off the lobster, over the lobster, and out through the mouthful and into the Atlantic. And they whisked her up into the dark Atlantic. And then they were halfway up the Atlantic, and then the bubbles, the beautiful lights, the beautiful blue glowing lights left her, and they flew off to heaven. And Biddy suddenly was in the middle of the Atlantic, by herself, not breathing. And then she remembered the hat, she rubbed the hat, put the hat on her head, and woof, she took off again. And finally she came back to shore. When she came back to shore, she went to the house. Her husband was still lying there. The Merrow was still lying there. She got the hat, her husband hat. She had the two hats, she threw them in the fire and burnt them. Then she got the Merrow and she dragged them out of the house. She rolled them down the beach and into the water. And it was never seen. From that day on, that terrible creature was never seen again. And Biddy and Jack, they lived reasonably happily ever after. But that's not quite the end of the story. That terrible creature had gone, but there was something about Doonbeg, something strange there, something about the magical place. For 200 years later, another creature came to Doonbeg, and that creature bought a big chunk of land there and built a golf course. And then he became a president. And that's the end of the story.